All right, it's our Blue Plate special for January 5th, 2021. We can see it's our flipped lesson. It's got Flip Saunders, of course, as you're used to. Why is it called the United States? So a state, we're going to look at the definitions of these vocab words first. A state is a politically organized body of people usually occupying a definite territory, especially one that is sovereign. So technically, in that definition, Illinois is not a state, but the U.S. as a whole is a state. I thought it was a country. Okay, so here's the thing. Geographically speaking, we actually call them states instead of countries. So what is Illinois or Wisconsin or Florida or any of the other states? Technically, they're a province, an administrative district or division of a country, or we could say of a state, because states are sovereign states. Now, why is it called the United States? Well, they formed a confederation, an organization which consists of a number of parties or groups united in an alliance or a league. We can see here the advice to join or die. If they're all independent, they're probably not going to survive because you could attack any one of them because they're varying sizes and don't support one another. But if they join together, then they become a larger state, a country. So that is the confederation that we formed at first under the Articles of Confederation. Now, under that concept, as we talked about in class, confederation of perpetual union between the states of, wait, what's that? That's really small. Good thing we got the magnifying glass there. Oh, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Bay, Rhode Island. So wait, like, when you can read the rest, it's just an agreement between the states? You betcha. Yeah, so confederation is actually just an agreement between the states. Now, keep going back and forth. States, provinces, countries. Like, what does this actually mean? Aren't they actually provinces? No, wrong again. Okay. Each state has a constitution, so they have a governing document that kind of allows them to do things. They have a state government, and it's broken down into branches. They have a governor. They have houses of Congress in Virginia. They call it the House of Burgesses. So they have representatives representing them in government, and they have a governor who kind of controls the government. And in some cases, they even have judiciaries, very similar to the national and state governments we have now, which we'll get into later as we actually look at the Constitution rather than the Articles of Confederation, because they serve different purposes. So there's state currency. That's right. Each individual state had its own currency. So with as close as we live to Wisconsin, if you wanted to go to Wisconsin and go to, I don't know, Red Robin, you'd actually have to get Wisconsin currency to go there. Otherwise, go to the Gurnee Red Robin. Those would be your only options. They also have state taxes. Now, that's the thing that we still have, of course. States can support themselves, but in this time period, there's no federal taxes. They don't give that power to the federal. So states have money. All of this, having their own government, having their own constitution, having their own taxes, they more or less have sovereignty. They're states, they're countries, little bitty countries on their own. Winning. How could you go wrong? But you said join or die. I sure did. So even though they're each kind of individual countries working on their own, unless they work together, we could have a situation like this. Virginia is not large enough, even though it's modern day Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky. Let's invade Maryland. Why shouldn't they, right? I mean, Maryland's small. They should win. Hey, yes, sir, we're going to invade Maryland. Except that there's this confederation and perpetual union between the states. Basically, they're all friends. So they are going to go ahead and get along and not invade each other because they're stronger together than they are individually. Think about that first lesson that we did in class where it was united we stand, divided we fall. That's the same concept that we're dealing with here. So the feds have no money, which means they can't pay their bills, no law enforcement, which means they can't keep the peace. They can declare war, though, and they can declare peace with other countries. They can sign treaties, and they're just Congress. At this time period, early on in the United States, there's no president, there's no judicial branch with the Supreme Court. Basically, the federal government is just a few representatives from each of the states arguing with each other. Kind of touch on that a little bit in class coming up. We haven't touched on it yet as I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon, but we do touch on it in class coming up. So, because of that, because they're each kind of a sovereign on their own, we are known as the United States even to this day. And as you can see from this picture, the government is not currently closed. The lights are on at Congress, and of course, there are three branches of government in Washington that actually have power, and then they still trickle down the power into the states. You learn that a little bit more as you look at the Constitution. We're going to brush on the Constitution in seventh grade. You're going to learn a lot more about it in eighth grade, but just know that there's kind of a little bit of power for the federal government, and then everything else is relegated to the states, which are technically provinces, but they have a lot of freedoms that make them closer to being actual states. And so that's why they're called the United States. Hopefully, you learned a little bit something with this. Go ahead and complete the Google form. Go ahead and show your learning, and that will count as your Blue Plate special for today. Take care of yourself and one another. Stay safe. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. My household to yours. We love you. Happy Tuesday.